In this video, I'm creating a Blessed Flask. I'll discuss everything that goes into making one, and we'll discuss everything that's wrong with this item.
Take it from me, girl. I won't ever do you wrong, but have a faith in me.
I came, I saw, I praised the Lord, the great, the Lord. I take what's mine and take some more. It rains, it pours, it rains.
Some of you might be wondering, what even is a Blessed Flask? Well, the Blessed Flask is an item that allows you to store 80 doses of extreme prayer potions into it. You can get more prayer potions restored from a single flask than an entire inventory of super restores. If this is the first time you're hearing about this, you might come to the same conclusion I did, which is that this flask sounds like it's incredibly overpowered, and you should probably get one as soon as possible. Sadly, in reality, there are a lot of things wrong with this item. In fact, I waited to make it until I got pretty much every other PVM upgrade in the game. In this video, we will go over all the reasons why I think this item probably isn't worth it for most people, and the most obvious reason is the creation process. If you are not an Ironman account, you will be able to purchase some of the items that are required, but not all of them, and some of the others will have to be obtained personally as if you were an Ironman. So anyone can follow along and decide which parts they think are worth doing themselves or not. We will be going over every step of the process, and I'll show you exactly how long each step takes. The first step to this entire process is to gather 1,200 of both of the types of flask sandstone. The reason I consider this the first step is because, frustratingly, it is a daily. You can only get around 50 or 75 of each. Personally, I'm really not a fan of DailyScape, so this part was extremely frustrating to me. But it's gonna take you about 16 to 24 days worth of dailies to mine this sandstone every day, and the crazy thing is, this is not even the worst sandstone related grind in this entire process. That honor goes to the 40,000 blessed sand you will be needing. To get blessed sand, you first need to mine normal sandstone, then you have to crush this sandstone into extra fine sandstone, and then you need to bless it. When you mine this sandstone, you'll randomly get one of the 4 different sizes, and you will need 22,000 of each, which means you will be using 88,000 porter charges, and this is gonna take you 60 hours. Once you have all the sandstone, it's time to crush it. There's 2 ways of doing this, either by hand, which will take 30 hours to complete. Luckily, you can also use the telekinetic grind spell to do this way quicker, and then it's only gonna take about 2 hours. Once you have this fine sand, it's time to bless it. This is gonna take you 14 hours, so in total, from mining to crushing to blessing, you'll spend 76 hours getting this blessed sand. Once you've got that, you're gonna have to spend 7 hours doing harps in Privdinas to get 5,000 harmonic dust. You'll have to visit the Ark to collect 250 Alea Celt and 500 positive energy. This is only about an hour, but you do need 90 divination and 97 mining. And if this all wasn't enough yet, you're also going to be needing to get lucky at the corporal beast to obtain a holy elixir. On average, this is gonna take you 3 hours. But considering it's a boss drop that you can go dry on, this could take you a long time. And after all this, you're gonna have to spend an hour or 2 getting a bunch of the remaining little recipe items, which include a bunch of random stone spirits, a Silthril chain which requires 50 of each of the main bars, 5 extreme prayers, 5 holy overloads, 5 light cores which you get from Privdinas, and 1 holy water which requires you to complete the Legends quest. Once you've gathered all these supplies, it's time to put it all together. You'll start by turning all the sandstone you've gathered into blessed molten glass. Then you can combine those with some of the other items you've collected to create azure and golden molten glass. You will need 10 of each, but once we've got that, we turn it into a Blessed Flask shell and then combine it with some of the last items to create the Blessed Flask. And that's it. That's all you have to do. It's only gonna take you about 88 hours, 118 herblore, 96 crafting, 90 divination, and 97 mining, with quest requirements being Plague's End and the Legends quest. So obviously this is a very endgame item. But that leads me to the question, is it worth it? I am fairly new to making RuneScape videos. If you want to support high quality RuneScape videos like this, then please do subscribe and like this video. So now that we've made this thing, it better be good, right? Well, if you need a ton of prayer points for a tricky combat encounter and you want to have as much food as possible, it is actually pretty good to have. The thing is, in the current meta, we bank a lot to get Adren for a lot of bosses, and for a lot of bosses, a single prayer restore flask would be good enough to last the entire fight. So in my personal experience, it only ever really got a chance to shine in hard mode Zuck when I decided not to take a Yak or any other Beast of Burden, and instead taking a damage familiar. Or Zamorak, when I'm using a Spirit Shield which drains prayer a ton, and so having more prayer without taking up too much inventory is pretty nice. And of course there's a ton of other low stakes combat scenarios such as Slayer or camping a lower level boss like God Wars Dungeon, where it would be better in theory to use the Blessed Flask over a bunch of other prayer potions. But that brings me to the next point. You can only use extreme prayer potions in the Blessed Flasks. You can't put in normal potions, you can't put in super restores. And considering extreme prayers take more time to make and take a bunch more supplies, at least for me personally, I would rather lose a bit of inventory space and have lower upkeep costs. Of course, if an update ever comes that results in us being able to put in any prayer potion in this, then this will become a no-brainer to take everywhere, but the fact that this is such a long grind and still has a big trade-off like this is kind of crazy. And with that being said, I do want to address one more big problem with the Blessed Flask. Finally, we get to the biggest problem I have with this thing, which is the bots. The thing is, generally speaking, we really don't see that many bots in the game. At least, not when compared to the amount of bots in old school RuneScape. In old school, they can be found doing everything, any activity in the game, and there's even YouTubers who've made careers out of documenting them all. RS3 on the other hand has done well in detecting and removing incentive for bots to be created in the first place in the past years. However, Blessed Sand still seems to be a breeding ground for them. The reasons of course being that it is an incredibly tedious grind that doesn't give a lot of XP and has incredibly low skill requirements, being 35 mining, 20 prayer and 20 crafting. If we go to the Manifos Worker District, we can find a bunch of low level accounts in a ton of worlds, and they're just mining and crushing sandstone non-stop for hours every single day. They have only leveled up mining, crafting and prayer, the exact skills you need to create Blessed Sand. Plenty of them reaching over 40 and 50 million mining XP. That means that these bots are making close to 2 billion GP worth of Blessed Sand per account, and there's tons of them spread across all the worlds. Now, obviously I should point out that I can't be 100% certain that these are bots, and there is still a tiny chance that they are regular accounts, but there's a lot of reasons why I think this is not the case. First off, they never ever respond when you talk to them. That's not the best evidence, because they might just not be social, but they also never use a pickaxe better than the cheap rune pickaxe, even when they have 50 million mining XP. But of course the most damning piece of evidence is their stats. They only have XP in the skills required to make Blessed Sand, and realistically, most normal players would at least get a bunch of random levels from free treasure hunter lamps. Unless they are Ironman of course, but I doubt that's the case here, because I doubt there are this many Ironman accounts who start their account by grinding multiple Blessed Flasks worth of sandstone while they don't have any of the other extremely late game requirements to create one. I have a lot more videos in store, so make sure to like, subscribe and comment. I put a lot of effort into these, so they take some time to make, so if you want to make sure you don't miss them, click the bell as well.